And you're live.
Hello, everyone. I am Assemblywoman Pacheco, and I want to thank all of you for joining us here today. Recent ICE activities in our cities have left many of our families feeling fearful and uncertain. The massive federal funding bill signed into law earlier this month earmarks about $170 billion for border and immigration enforcement, including tens of billions for new deportation agents and other personnel. Everyone deserves to be informed and to know their rights. Today's Know Your Rights Today's Know Your Rights webinar is about making sure that you all have the tools, information, and support you need to protect yourself and your loved ones and our community. As a daughter of immigrants, I am committed to helping our community stay knowledgeable and empowered. Over the course of our time together, you will learn how to respond if approached by ICE, who to contact for immediate help, and what legal protections may apply to you. This webinar is co-hosted by the Southeast District Bar Association, and we are joined by two outstanding and amazing attorneys who have extensive experience with immigration and will share their insights. We have today Robert Jacobs, founder and senior partner at Robert F. Jacobs and Associates. We also have Jessica Dominguez, principal attorney at Jessica Dominguez Immigration Law Group. Before we begin, I must note that this session provides general legal guidance, but every situation is unique. If you or someone in your family is facing an immigration case, we strongly encourage you to reach out directly to our featured attorneys or another trusted legal professional for personalized advice. At the end of this webinar, we will share our Know Your Rights resource page that's full of information about individual and businesses' rights, resources, and how to seek legal assistance. After my brief remarks in Spanish, we will begin with a 10-minute We Have Rights video about how to prepare for and exercise your rights during encounters with ICE. Now I will proceed with Spanish para los que hablan español. Hola, buenas tardes. Yo soy la asambleísta Blanca Pacheco. Quiero agradecerles a todos por acompañarnos hoy. La reciente actividad de ICE en nuestras comunidades ha generado miedo en muchas familias. El seminario web Conoce tus derechos de hoy se trata de contemos con las herramientas, la información y el apoyo necesario para proteger a su familia y también a la comunidad. Como hija de inmigrantes, estoy comprometida a ayudar a nuestra comunidad a mantener información. Durante el tiempo que pasamos juntos, vamos a aprender cómo responder si se comunica con ICE, a quién contactar para obtener ayuda inmediata y qué protecciones legales podrán corresponderle. Este seminario vamos a tener dos abogados que son excelentes y son conocidos en esta profesión. Tenemos hoy a Robert Jacobs. Su firm se llama Robert F. Jacobs y Associates. Y también tenemos a Jessica Domínguez, que es abogada principal de Jessica Domínguez Immigration Law Group. Hay que comenzar con el video.
It was 5:30 a.m. when ICE came to Esther's apartment. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agents lied to Esther, saying they were police officers investigating a crime and her husband, Alexei, was a potential witness. "Is Alexei home?" they asked innocently. Now Esther's gut told her she should cooperate, but she remembered something she'd heard on the radio. ICE had been making early morning sweeps using tricks like this to get people to open their doors. Esther remembered she had rights. ICE may try similar tricks at your home, They may say they're looking for a friend, relative, or roommate, but do not be fooled, and do not open the door. Instead, remain calm and be polite. Tell the agents that you'd like to see a warrant and their ID. Ask them to slip these documents under the door or hold them up to the peephole. Without a warrant signed by a judge, ICE is not allowed to enter or search your home. ICE usually won't have a warrant, but they may lie and say they do, or show you something else that looks official. So look carefully and take pictures of whatever they show you. If they refuse to share any of these documents, then ask them for their card and contact information. Do not show the agents anything or say anything except, "I do not consent for you to enter my home. I do not want to talk to you without a lawyer present. Please leave." Now, ICE won't always listen to you and may enter your home using force. But saying these things might help you in court, even if the agents don't listen. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. After an encounter with ICE, take notes about what happened, writing down as many details as you can remember. This information might be helpful in future immigration proceedings. It's important that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE, and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who to call. If ICE comes to your home, remember, you have rights. Do not open the door. Ask to see a warrant signed by a judge. Tell them you do not consent to them being at your home. Please leave. It was a normal afternoon. Judy and her friend Liz went out for lunch. The two met in elementary school and have been friends ever since. Liz is an American citizen, and while Judy was brought to the U.S. by her parents when she was only 4 years old, she is undocumented. Liz noticed two men that seemed to be following them, but she thought nothing of it. That's when the men called out Judy's name as if they were old friends. When she turned, the men approached fast. Judy had just been identified by ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Stories like this happen every day and are happening now more than ever. ICE approaches people in the street, at work, in their car, or even in court. They often will not be in uniform. It's scary, but remember, we have rights. If you are stopped by authorities and don't know who they are, ask them to identify themselves. Then ask, "Am I free to go?" If they say yes, walk away and do not answer any questions. In Judy's case, the agents told her she was not free to go. If this happens, do not resist or run away, and do not say anything, except, "I want to use my right to remain silent. I want to speak to a lawyer." Remember, you can ask to speak to a lawyer even if you don't have one. If the agents search your bag or your person, say, "I do not agree to this search." They are looking for documents proving your immigration status. Witnesses have the right to film the interaction as long as they do not interrupt the arrest and they are transparent that they are filming. Judy was lucky. Even if you do everything right in a similar scenario, ICE may still arrest you. After the encounter, Judy and Liz took notes about what happened, writing down as many details as they could remember. Be sure that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who you should call. If ICE stops you in your community, remember, you have rights. Remain silent. Ask to speak to a lawyer. Say you do not agree to their search. Samir's wife asked him to stop at the store on his way home from work to pick up groceries. While shopping, Samir noticed a man who seemed to be watching him. Was he paranoid? Probably, he thought. Samir's heart started racing when he saw a second man watching him outside the store. He moved deliberately toward his car, telling himself there was nothing to worry about. I'm totally being paranoid, he told himself. That's when he felt a forceful grip on his shoulder. Without identifying themselves, the two men began to bark questions at Samir. It was ICE. ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Arrests like these happen every day, and they happen out of nowhere. It's scary, but remember, we have rights. If you are arrested by ICE, remain silent. Ask to speak to a lawyer even if you don't have one. If you witness ICE making an arrest, it is your right to document what you see by taking notes or videotaping. Do not interrupt the arrest, but you have the right to ask for identification and badge numbers. If you've been arrested, do not sign anything. Keep whatever information ICE gives you. They will have important information for your family. After ICE arrests you, they will likely take you to an ICE office and ask you more questions before starting a deportation case against you and deciding whether or not to send you to a detention facility. Remember, do not say anything without a lawyer present. You can ask to speak to a lawyer even if you don't have one. Within about a day, loved ones will be able to search for your location at the website included below. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. Be sure that you and your loved ones are prepared for encounters with ICE and that you have a plan for what to do if one of you is arrested, including information about who you should call. If you are arrested by ICE, remember, you have rights. Remain silent. Ask to speak to a lawyer. Do not sign anything.
If you witness ICE or any law enforcement agents making an arrest in public, it is your right to film the interaction as long as you do not interfere with the arrest. ICE doesn't always respect these rights and sometimes will target the person filming, so always assess your personal risk before hitting record. If you're not comfortable filming, that's okay. You can still document the arrest by taking notes on what happens or simply bearing witness. This is all scary, but remember, we have rights. When documenting an arrest, film openly and comply with any instructions the agents give you. If the agents tell you to stop filming, you can tell them, "I am exercising my right to document this arrest." Abdi let Andrea know that he was there to support her and document the agent's behavior. If the agents ask you to step back, document yourself complying and continue filming if you feel comfortable. Always keep your camera focused on law enforcement, not the person being arrested or their family members. Showing their identities can make them vulnerable to retaliation. The agents claimed to have a warrant, but it was not signed by a judge. Be sure to capture details like any documents the agents are carrying, as well as weapons, badges, and uniforms. Capture context, such as street signs, landmarks, and any other cameras that are present, but don't stop recording in between shots. If the agents become violent, remain calm and allow your footage to speak for itself. If you do narrate, focus on facts, such as time of day and number of agents. Do not reveal the identity of the person being detained, their immigration status, or their criminal history. Anything the agents learn during an arrest can be used in court. ICE does not have the right to confiscate your phone or to delete your footage, but they may try anyway. Lock your phone with at least a 6-digit passcode. Your passwords are protected under your Fifth Amendment right, but fingerprint ID, facial recognition, and pattern lock are not. Andrea was arrested. If you edit the footage, do so from a copy. This will help the original stand up as evidence in court. Abdi did not post the footage to social media or live stream it, knowing that doing so could expose him and Andrea's family to retaliation. Instead, he shared it with Andrea's family and their lawyer. They decided how to release it. Your footage will be more effective when released strategically in partnership with a lawyer, an advocacy organization, or a reputable journalist. If you witness ICE making an arrest, remember, you have rights.
Assemblywoman, that concludes the video presentation. Now back to you for the introduction of our guest speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our two outstanding panelist attorneys who have extensive experience with immigration enforcement and will share their insights. Today we have with us Robert Jacobs, which is the owner of Robert F. Jacobs and Associates, a law firm specializing in both immigration law and criminal defense. With over 25 years of experience, Mr. Jacobs is highly respected in the legal community, frequently teaching other attorneys and participating in legal seminars. And I also just want to add also a Kiwanian and a member of the Southeast District Bar Association. And then we also have Jessica Dominguez, who is a founder of the Jessica Dominguez Immigration Law Group, a bilingual team of immigration attorneys based in Los Angeles, dedicated to defending the rights of immigrants and keeping families united. Through her 20 years of work, she provides reliable information that empower immigrant families to protect their rights. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our amazing attorneys. We'll go ahead and begin with Mr. Jacobs, followed by Ms. Dominguez. Mr. Jacobs, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here and great to see you again. So one of my specialties is representing immigrants with convictions. And as we know now, the current administration is claiming to go after immigrants with convictions or crimes. And so there's various applications that we can talk about. And one application I'm going to talk about is DACA. DACA right now is still in process. Current recipients can continue to renew their DACA applications. However, if you apply more than a year after it expired, then you're considered an initial applicant, and they are actually receiving them but not granting them. So make sure you apply for DACA on time if you're going to be renewing it. For DACA, a lot of people think that if you have a conviction, it will somehow disqualify you. The disqualifying factors for DACA could be one felony, significant misdemeanor, or 3 or more non-significant misdemeanors. But what some people don't understand is that if any of your disqualifying convictions are expunged, then you can qualify again for DACA. And so if somebody currently has DACA and they commit a conviction or a crime and are convicted, one of the things that we can do is to try to terminate probation early and expunge that conviction as quickly as possible. And then that person would become eligible for DACA again. And so if somebody is arrested for a conviction that could possibly jeopardize DACA, make sure you hire a criminal and immigration attorney who can try to rush you through the criminal defense process so that you have a chance to expunge it before it's too late to renew your DACA application. Another thing that people are worried about is just having convictions in general. And people think that if you have a conviction, you might not qualify for an immigration benefit. And they see these ICE raids and they think that everyone is in jeopardy of being arrested and immediately deported. And that's not true. If you are here and you have never been deported, then you have a right to go to immigration court and you can have an attorney represent you in a removal defense case. And removal defense cases can last years. And when you're in removal proceedings, many times or most times you can qualify for a work permit. And also people with convictions can still apply for applications for relief in immigration court, even with those convictions. And there are various things called waivers or pardons that that you might qualify for. If you've been deported and came back illegally, then you have less rights, but you still might have a chance to apply for something called Convention Against Torture, or some type of political asylum claim, even if the government might want to reinstate that old removal order. Also, following removal proceedings, even if you lose your case, you have appeal rights. You can file an appeal with the Board of Immigration Appeals, and typically those appeals can last about 1 year or so. And depending on your case, you can possibly file a second appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And those cases can last typically anywhere from 1 to up to 4 years if you have a decent political asylum type claim. And so I want to emphasize that just because you're here and you're undocumented or your family's undocumented, it doesn't mean that that if ICE detains you or detains your family member, that you have no chance and you're going to be deported. There are many opportunities for immigrants to remain here even after being apprehended, and also even with convictions. And as I stated before, the intent of the current administration is the claim that they're going to round up and deport any immigrant with crimes or convictions. And the reality is many immigrants have convictions, and a lot of them are relatively minor and don't affect eligibility for relief. Or there's waivers to get around convictions. If you're going to try to process through a adjustment of status application through a family member, somebody who's a resident or citizen who applied for you, even with convictions, there's waivers that you can apply for, an I-601 crime waiver, for example. There's also waivers for deportation. So if somebody was ordered deported from an immigration court and hasn't left the country, in some situations, they actually would qualify to apply for a deportation waiver while in the United States, along with an I-601A provisional waiver, also while in the United States. And ultimately, there would be an interview in your home country after several years, and you would be able to obtain a resident card and come back following the grant of those waivers and also an interview. I want to back up a little bit also. If you or a family member are detained by ICE, there's also a chance to apply for a bond from the immigration judge. If you have certain crimes, it might disqualify you from an actual bond request. But in many instances, or most, if you don't have a crime or it's not a very significant crime, you actually would qualify for an immigration bond, which means that you would be out of custody while in removal proceedings. And those are the proceedings that I was talking about, could take years. If you're in custody, then the removal proceedings would go much more quickly. But I want people to be aware that just because someone is detained doesn't mean that they're going to be in immigration custody for a very long period of time. There's certain crimes that technically would disqualify immigrants from obtaining a green card, for example, through a family member, such as a drug trafficking conviction. There's crimmigration attorneys like myself, where we do immigration and criminal defense, and we actually can apply for a motion with the criminal court called a motion to vacate. It used to be under Penal Code Section 1016.5, and now there's been a new statutory vehicle under 1473.7. And if we can vacate a conviction due to a legal invalidity, then that conviction is no longer a conviction under immigration law. Now, generally, and I had mentioned expungements before in the context of a DACA application. Outside of the DACA application context, expungements generally work helping an immigrant with discretion, with an application where an officer has the ability to decide whether or not you would qualify given a criminal background. Expungements would help with discretion, but they wouldn't erase a conviction under immigration law. So if you're looking at a conviction and trying to decide whether you qualify for something, you have to make sure that an attorney advising you chooses a correct vehicle to eliminate the conviction so that you would qualify for an immigration benefit. So in some circumstances, an expungement is not good enough for particular convictions, and your case actually would require a motion to vacate rather than an expungement. And if I go back to the DACA application, and I don't recall if I mentioned that if somebody has DACA and they commit a crime, for example, a DUI, they ordinarily would be put on probation for 3 years. So what you would want to do is, ideally, if you have to enter a plea, you would enter a plea as quickly as possible to start the clock towards that 3-year probationary period, and then try to do a motion to terminate probation early after about 1.5 years. And hopefully, based on the timing, that you would be able to terminate probation early, expunge the conviction after terminating probation, because you can't get an expungement if probation is ongoing. And then that would re-qualify the individual to apply to renew the DACA application. I also wanted to mention that currently there is a new legislation that's being proposed called the Dignity Act of 2025. And the two portions of that proposed bill, and I want to emphasize that it's proposed, that nothing has been passed, but one aspect of that is called a dignity program, which would be a 7-year program providing temporary legal status and protection from removal proceedings, travel and work authorization, basically over about a 7-year period after passing a criminal background check, paying income taxes, and it's proposed a $7,000 restitution fine over a 7-year period. That's one aspect of this proposed law. Another aspect would actually provide permanent resident status on a conditional basis for people with DACA, and people who have been in the U.S. continuously since 2021 and were under the age of 19 when they were brought into the country. They also would go through the analysis of if people have disqualifying convictions. So if this type of bill actually does get passed, you have to make sure that you qualify, and I'm assuming that expungements would be good enough for an otherwise disqualifying conviction, but we don't know that for sure. So those are two aspects of that proposed bill, and it's actually a bipartisan bill right now, sponsored by 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. So that's something that we can pray gets passed. And at this point, I can probably turn it over to Jessica.
Council, thank you so much. I just wanted to follow up with a question because I know a lot of people are going to be watching this video later. And one of the questions that we get daily have a lot to do with those cases that you go and fight for every day. And specifically about this, you mentioned that if someone gets detained, they will have the right to go to see the immigration judge to apply for bond. How about all those messages that are all over social media, all over media, telling people that under this administration, your attorney can ask for bond, but it doesn't mean that they're going to get it. Why? Because they are interpreting the law differently. What can you tell us about that?
So it's my understanding that there was the court up in Tacoma, Washington, started interpreting the mandatory detention law as stating that if you're not here, if you didn't enter the country legally with a visa, then you're considered an arriving alien, which takes away the jurisdiction of an immigration judge to grant bond. Traditionally, if an immigrant enters the country unlawfully and remains in the United States, they would interpret that that person to not be an arriving alien because they've already entered the country and they're living in the United States. But this one court started to interpret it saying, the only people eligible for a bond would be people who overstayed a visitor visa or a student visa, or had have a green card and are now being placed in the removal proceedings. It's a very, very new development, and I'm sure if the courts start to interpret it that way, there's going to be legal challenges, and we're going to have to see how that turns out. But I don't let that discourage you from fighting your case and not giving up, and not letting the fear of the administration to overtake rational thought and speaking to a lawyer about your legal rights.
Thank you, Counsel. I think you just said a word that it's so important for our community nowadays, and that is fear, right? And I think as attorneys, we were taught many years ago that fears is false evidence appearing real. My first advice to anyone who's going to share this video, anyone who's watching this video, if you know someone who's undocumented, is that yes, there are going to be many different policies that are going to be shared with us, including the one that we just talked about, but that does not mean that that's what's happening every day. I can tell you that amazing counsel, such as my colleague here, Robert Jacobs, and many other attorneys who are going to courts every single day, Adelanto, we hear about those cases daily, they continue to fight the fight, and your relatives continue to get released on bond. So don't believe everything you hear. Make sure that you're always well advised. I also wanted to say a little bit of what counsel just shared with us, because I'm an immigration attorney, but I'm not a pre-immigration attorney. And I send everyone who finds themselves in a situation where they might have a conviction that makes them removable, deportable, or that's not going to help them qualify for legal permanent residency, to experts like Mr. Robert Jacobs. So I wanted to repeat just a bit, interpret what he just said in Spanish, because I know a lot of people will be interested to hear this material. And I'm going to try to do my best, Robert, and you try to stop me in case I say something wrong. Although, how are you going to know? Right? Ari, or the Assemblywoman can. And by the way, I want to say thank you, Assemblywoman Pacheco, for doing this. It definitely shows a lot of courage nowadays to do this for your community. And many people are grateful, including attorneys that are fighting these fights every day, because it is so helpful to keep our community informed. So thank you for doing that. Very appreciative.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Lo que dijo el abogado Jacobs, me parece algo muy importante, es que muchas personas piensan que porque ya tienen un delito, porque tienen una convicción por parte de un juez penal, que ya piensan que todo está perdido. Señoras y señores, en los momentos que estamos viviendo en este momento, nadie debe darse el lujo de pensar que ya todo está perdido. Si usted sabe que inmigración está llevando a cabo todos estos operativos, que están deteniendo a personas todos los días, usted tiene que evaluar el riesgo en el que usted y su familia vive. Por ejemplo, si es que tiene un delito, como lo acaba de decir el abogado, y respectivamente de qué delito sea, no debe esperar a ser detenido para después decir, déjame ver qué debo hacer. Porque especialmente si usted se dio culpable, por ejemplo, de un delito menor, pero que lo hace deportable, y un abogado como Robert Jacobs lee toda la documentación y dice, un momento, tú te diste culpable solamente por el hecho de que un abogado defensor te dijo, ¿sabes qué? Otro abogado privado te dijo, mejor acepta que eres culpable de este delito para que así, en lugar de pasar 2 años en cárcel, solamente pases una semana. Pues, ¿quién va a decir no a tan grande oferta, verdad? Pero eso bajo la ley se llama un error técnico, porque usted se dio culpable solamente por no pasar más tiempo en cárcel. Y si ahora un abogado que es experto en la ley de pre-immigration, como es el abogado Jacobs, lo que el abogado va, habla con el fiscal, habla con el juez y dice, señores y señores, cuando mi cliente se dio culpable, él no sabía las consecuencias que iba a tener bajo las leyes de migración y debido a que yo he encontrado estas technicalidades, vamos a ver qué se puede hacer. Y es una conversación que usted debe tener desde ya, no esperar a ser detenido. Algo más que el abogado Jacobs compartió con nosotros es que sí es verdad que las personas están siendo detenidas, pero eso no significa que allí se acabó todo. Algo que yo he estado compartiendo con la comunidad es que el que se desespera en la espera no va a tener el resultado que están teniendo personas que las están dejando salir después de conseguir fianza con los jueces. ¿Por qué? Porque, señores y señores, este es el trabajo que tiene la autoridad de decirles firma. Los abogados podemos contarles historias a diario de personas que les ofrecen firmar para salida voluntaria e inclusive les están ofreciendo dinero si usan el CBP-1. Yo no sé ustedes, pero la mayoría de familias que yo conozco, los padres de familias, madres de familias, ellos no van a querer salir voluntaria porque quieren quedarse a pelear sus casos aquí con un juez de inmigración. Y aunque escuchen tantas noticias, ustedes no se pueden dejar llevar por lo negativo. Tienen que saber que si están bien representados, van a poder saber cuáles son sus consecuencias y por eso no esperen a ser detenidos. Converse con un abogado ya. Muchos de ustedes dirán, pero abogada, yo no puedo contratar a un abogado, no puedo pagar una consulta. Pues eso ya no es excusa porque hay organizaciones como CHIRLA, hay organizaciones como, por ejemplo, ACLU, que las libertades civiles, esta organización que pelea por los derechos de los migrantes hace muchísimos años y también le pueden referir a organizaciones que le den consultas gratis. Así que hoy en día eso ya no es excusa. Déjenme ver qué más. Yo le estoy añadiendo, I'm adding a little bit of my counsel, just so you know, sending people to the community-based organization. Pero déjenme repasar más qué dijo el abogado porque me parece que todo es importante. Él también dice, habló mucho de DACA, ¿no? Porque hoy en día personas que tienen DACA están recibiendo cartas, escúcheme claro, para presentarse a inmigración debido a que tienen una orden de deportación. Entonces, el DACA recipient está perdido. Dice, wait, ¿cómo? Si yo ya tengo DACA, why do I have to show up to ICE? That's when you have to speak to your attorney because they're going to tell you that even though you have that order of deportation, because you have been granted DACA, that's something that's going to be able to help you. Pero ¿por qué me voy al inglés? Y el abogado dijo eso en inglés, déjame quedarme en español. Así que a buscar ayuda si les llega esta carta para presentarse para deportación. La carta solamente dice, ven a presentar documentos, pero en realidad es una cita con los oficiales de deportación. El abogado también dijo que hay delitos que no te ayudan, que definitivamente te descalifican para una fianza. Por ejemplo, como tráfico de drogas. Esos son delitos imperdonables, pero que de todas maneras vayan a ver un abogado como que tenga experiencia en esa área para que su caso pueda ser analizado. Let's see, I made notes. What else? El abogado habló de un programa que se llama el Programa de Dignidad, que como saben se está hablando en el Congreso de este programa y sería una gran bendición si podríamos recibir eso para nuestras familias. ¿Por qué? Porque al comprobar que viven acá 7 años, les daría un estatus legal solamente temporal y eventualmente podrían entonces calificar para una residencia permanente legal y eventualmente la ciudadanía. Un camino largo, sí, pero yo le puedo presentar a cientos de personas que dirían, abogado, a mí no me importa si tengo que esperar 10 años, yo me espero, me porto bien, pago mis impuestos, pero déjenme estar aquí legalmente con mi familia, trabajando y saliendo adelante. Así que ya saben, si tienen preguntas de pre-immigration pueden ir directamente al abogado Jacobs. I hope I didn't forget anything that you mentioned, Robert, because I really believe that the area of law that you practice is so important for our community nowadays. And if you can think of anything, just send me a message in the chat. I'll be more than happy to share. Now to my part, I've been asked to share a little bit about naturalization, to share a little bit about fraud taking place in our community. And I'll be more than happy to share that with you in English, but of course I have to speak in Spanish as well, because the community that needs this information the most needs to hear it in Spanish as well. I want to start by saying that I love the video about Know Your Rights. And I love that video because it had one key word for me, and it was planning. Planning. After every case scenario, I kept hearing that word, plan. And now more than ever, it is of the utmost importance, family members, that you have a conversation with your family and that you speak about the reality of what's going on nowadays. What do I mean by that? You have to assess the risk. Do you have a final order of deportation? Are you someone who has committed crimes, who has gone to someone like Robert Jacobs and they already told you, we can't do an expungement, we can't do a motion to vacate, we can't do anything for you? Meaning that if you get detained, you're going to get deported immediately? Or are you someone who was expeditiously removed in the past? You were deported and you came back without inspection. You came in without permission. What that means is that if you have an encounter with ICE, they have all the right to detain you and to send you back to your country of origin as soon as possible, without the right to see a judge, unless you pass a credible fear interview. But it is my experience that once somebody has an expedited removal and you get detained again, the majority of people don't pass the credible fear interview, and hence they end up getting deported. So why am I telling you this? Because Robert and I and my amazing colleagues who are doing an amazing job going to court every day, trying to get people released from detention, I have to tell you that we find families where they have not had this conversation. They have not had this plan in writing. And what happens? Somebody gets them back home and we don't know who's going to take care of the kids. We don't know what's going to happen with the business. The family doesn't know what's going to happen with all the different responsibilities that this person has. So please plan. There are no excuses, as I said earlier. There are many community-based organizations, CHIRLA, Carecen, Immigrants Defenders, that are sharing so much information at no cost for you that you can get copies of these documents, get them notarized, and protect your family that way. So that's from the get-go. Now, many people ask me, my friends who don't speak Spanish, who have their gardeners, their housekeepers working for them for over 2 decades, and they ask me, wait, how come they're not citizens yet? And I have to explain to them that under immigration law, you cannot become a citizen, you cannot naturalize unless you're a legal permanent resident first. There are some exceptions, like if you acquire citizenship or you've derived citizenship, but that's a conversation for another day because that's the exception to the rule, right, Robert? The majority of people want to naturalize so they can become citizens. And let me tell you, in order to get there, you have to be a legal permanent resident. The majority of people that are here for over 2-3 decades, they wish that they can become legal permanent residents like anyone else. But why can't they? Why? If they have children who were born here, their kids are over 21, and immigration law says that you have a son or daughter who's over 21 and they're a U.S. citizen, they can petition for you. So how come these parents are not getting status? I'll tell you why. Because under immigration law, you have to prove that you either have the protection of 245I, that you came in with inspection, with a visa, with humanitarian parole, some type of a special permit that allow you to come into the country legally, or you have a son or a daughter or a spouse who's serving in the armed forces or who's a veteran. They could be your spouse, your son, or your daughter. If that is the case, then an attorney can analyze your case. Have you been deported before? Do you have any crimes? Did you see an immigration judge in the past? Did they give you a voluntary departure? What happened with your case with an immigration judge or with the Citizenship and Immigration Services Department? Once the case gets analyzed, then very few qualify to apply for residency. The majority of them, I would venture to say millions of parents, don't qualify. So when you ask how come they're not citizens, it's because they can't be legal permanent residents. That's it. So hence the fact that we need something like the bill that my colleague just mentioned, like the Dignity Act. If that were to pass, boy, that would definitely change many people's lives. So let me explain. If you're legal permanent resident and you already qualify, well, you need to become a citizen if you're a legal permanent resident. 5 years as a legal permanent resident, or 3 only if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you are residing without spouse. So you can't be fighting without spouse because you know, they send you to sleep in the couch, that's one thing. But if they throw you out of the house, you have to wait the 5 years. You can't just be a resident for 3 years. You have to be a person of good moral character. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, boy, then I'm done because I've committed some crimes, that's when you go to the criminal immigration attorney like Robert Jacobs. They get you certified court dispositions. They analyze them, and then you move on with the analysis as to whether or not something could be done, like a motion to vacate. A motion to vacate means that they go back to court, and as I explained in Spanish earlier, maybe something can be done about that crime from the past. So don't just give up. You also have to be able to speak basic English, read it and write it. The sentence they may ask you to write, the house is blue, the president is, whatever sentence they give you, it's really, really easy. And don't be afraid, because there are many community-based organizations out there who are going to give you free classes for you to take so that you don't have to worry about that aspect of becoming a citizen. What else do we need? We also need that you can prove that you have never claimed to be a U.S. citizen. That's a requirement for legal permanent residency as well. So if you're a legal permanent resident and you want to become a citizen, please do not register to vote. Please do not ever vote. And please don't go to court to be a juror. Just tell them you don't qualify because you're not a U.S. citizen yet. Great. So now what else do I want to talk about? Detain people that are detained. My colleague already talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think it's important that I mention that. Let me tell you why so many people find themselves in this situation. Y esto lo voy a hablar en español, tanto como en inglés. Yo les cuento que una de las leyes, que es la ley más defraudadora que existe en los Estados Unidos, es la ley de los 10 años. ¿Por qué le digo la ley defraudadora? Porque muchas personas, sin escrúpulos, le ofrecen a la comunidad que firme para que reciban su permiso de trabajo, para que reciban la tarjeta de residencia, debido a que viven acá más de 10 años. Un abogado fiscal del gobierno me lo dijo, gracias a Dios, cuando empecé mi carrera hace 22 años, y nunca me lo voy a olvidar. Y él dijo, cualquier abogado que entregue a sus clientes para deportación, no debería tener una licencia para ejercer la ley. ¿Por qué? Porque para que usted pueda defender bajo la ley de 10 años, la mayoría de personas solicitan asilo, y cuando usted llega le dicen, no calificas para asilo, ya está frente a un juez. Y el abogado entonces dice, déjame cambiar la aplicación de asilo por la aplicación por la cancelación de expulsión. Y la mayoría de estos casos son negados. La mayoría de estos casos terminan con salida voluntaria, y como la persona no se va, terminan en deportación. Son muchas de las personas con una orden final de deportación el día de hoy, no son porque son gente mala, no son porque cometieron crímenes o porque no pagan impuestos. No, es porque alguien los defraudó y alguien los engañó. Yo sé que hay muchas personas que van a decir, pero abogada, yo sigo en mi ley. Bueno, es porque tal vez le encontraron trabajando sin documentos, y allí sí vale defender su caso bajo la ley de expulsión, o la ley conocida como la ley de 10 años. Pero no se vayan a meter a la boca del lobo solamente porque alguien nos ofrece este fraude. Aparte, hoy en día estamos viendo cómo personas toman ventaja de las personas inmigrantes, y por venderles una carta, por venderles una forma G28, déjenme decirles que ninguna forma ni ninguna carta va a parar que un oficial les siga la ley de inmigración y los detenga. Eso me lo han dicho los oficiales de ICE muy a menudo. Lo que va a evitar que ustedes los detengan es si ustedes conocen sus derechos. And I won't repeat your rights, because thankfully that video that the Assemblywoman Pacheco and her team showed us was very powerful. Actually, I'm going to ask him to send me the link because I want to use it. It's very well prepared. It has all the information, but I did want to talk regarding the fraud, the 10-year law, that it's really a way to get you into the system. And then when the judge says you don't qualify, the end result, after you lose that case, even if you appeal it, it's going to be that if you don't leave the country, you'll have a deportation order. And many of the people that find themselves in detention now and that get deported is because somebody defrauded them through that law. So just watch out for that. I also wanted to talk about los decidiosos, no? Desidia, it's a word that I'm allergic to. And what does desidia mean? You meet people every day. I'm sure Robert meets them as well. And they qualified to apply for residency or naturalization many years ago. Why didn't they do it? Pues la desidia. Señores y señores, la desidia, it's your worst enemy right now. Si es que usted sabe que su hijo le puede ayudar a que usted solicite la residencia, si usted sabe que ya le califica para ser ciudadano y le tiene miedo al inglés, por ejemplo, si usted ya tiene más de 50 años de joven y más de 20 años como residente permanente legal, ya usted puede tomar el examen en español, así que no hay excusa. más de 55 años de edad, solamente necesita 15 años como residente. So, la pregunta es, ¿qué está usted esperando? La desidia tiene que moverse de su casa de por vida, especialmente durante los próximos 3 años y medio. So the word desidia, it's kind of like someone who is undecided, someone who already qualifies for either to apply for citizenship or to apply for legal permanent residency. However, they're waiting for something to change and they haven't done it. And the question becomes, when are you going to do this? If you qualify, I would say that this is not the time to have desidia or not being able to make a decision during the next 3.5 years. You have to be well informed. You have to have a really good plan for you and your family. You have to make sure that you have connected to community. There are a lot of community-based organizations out there who are fighting for you and your families on a daily basis. So please, desidia, move them out of your house, and because it's not the time to go to just wait for a change in law. If you qualify, you should pursue that. And what's the best way of finding an attorney who can help you, an attorney who you know may be able to give you a consultation and tell you whether the step you're about to take is the right one or not? Go to call 3 different community-based organizations. Now, you will find a lot of attorneys like me. You will not be able to find immigration attorneys. So for that, you have to call Robert Jacobs. But if you're just looking for a consultation, don't wait to hire a lawyer if you can't do that. Just go to the CBOs and they'll be more than happy to give you the information that you need. Algo que me he olvidado, Roberto. A ver, did I miss interpreting something that you said? Please tell me. I'll be more than happy to tell our community in Spanish. No te escucho. Can't hear you.
If now we can go into the Q&A session with the assembly member.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you both for sharing such valuable information with all of us. And Jessica Dominguez, thank you also for translating as well. Both of your information was extremely important. So nomás les quiero agradecer que los dos dieron información que es información que nuestra comunidad lo necesita. Así es que les quiero agradecer mucho por esa información y ahora vamos a ir a la porción de este video donde vamos a oír las preguntas que la comunidad tiene. So now we're going to go into the Q&A section, and I do have some questions that were submitted already. I will start off with my first question that was submitted. Any of you can take this question. First question, any advice to business owners who may find themselves living in fear? Who would like to take that question?
I mean, I can take that. I would, so I guess we're talking about immigrants who own their own business, or are we talking about employers that are worried about their employees? If you're an employer worried about your employees, I would refer them to an immigration attorney, obviously, to find out about their status and what their options are, and if there's any pathways to permanent residency. If they're a business owner themselves and they're worried about what would happen to the business if they're detained, I would have a backup business plan in place. You probably want to go to an attorney to get a power of attorney, and there's a legal document where you can provide another trusted person who is familiar with the business and could possibly either take it over or kind of close it down, wind it down if something were to happen to you. A power of attorney would allow them to make business decisions on your behalf. And ideally that could be a family member as well, someone who's not at risk of being deported. But that's something that I would recommend looking into right away.
Thank you.
And if I may add,
sorry.
May I add something?
Oh, yeah.
No worries. Thank you, Assemblywoman. I would also, just in my conversations that I've had with many business owners, there are two sides of the coin as well, right? The first one is they're concerned because what kind of documents do I have to show in order that I don't get in trouble as a business owner? Well, the law says that you have to have every employee fill out the Form I-9 and that your files have to be in order. Now, you cannot discriminate. If somebody gives you a green card or a passport, you can be like, oh, you're not an expert. I don't know what is this good. You can't ask that of an employee. So you should just keep your records in order. But the side of the coin that I'm most passionate about is the fact that you as a business owner can literally protect your employees, because if ICE shows up without a warrant, they have no right to enter your business, no right whatsoever. And you can ask them. But you can let them know. Have you seen that video? I loved it. Is the owner of this car wash where ICE showed up? There were all these workers. They were all running towards inside of the premise because ICE couldn't go in there. And the owner came out and he said, "Where's your warrant?" There's no warrant. The employees were protected. So that's why it's so important to know your rights as a business owner. They cannot come in unless they show you a warrant.
Thank you. And that was actually going to be my follow-up question.
Thank you.
So perfect. You
You're
read my
welcome.
mind.
Good.
The next question that I have here is there a pipeline for expedited citizenship if desired?
That's when I need help with the word pipeline. Does that mean if there's a way to make it go faster?
I believe that's what that means. That was the
I would
question.
say no. Council, what do you think? There's no premium processing for N400s, right?
Right. Yeah. There's no way to speed up the citizenship process unless, for example, somebody is a derivative citizen, which Jessica mentioned earlier. If your parents, perhaps you might have been born outside the United States, but one or both parents are U.S. citizens. There's an application for a certificate of citizenship that you might qualify for, and that would skip the green card process, and that would be an N600 application. But there's no real way to speed up the green card process and the naturalization process otherwise.
There would be no end.
We wish.
Yeah.
Our next question that I have here is, what is the I-90 form? Can we submit the form online? And can I travel while my I-90 form is pending? So what is it? Can I submit online? And may I travel?
I'll answer if that's okay with you, but I'm looking up it's funny, I talk about these forms in Spanish all the time. So I'm looking up for how you say it in English, but so that you know, if you need to renew your green card, you use the I-90 application to replace permanent resident card. That's how you say it in English. Yo digo para la renovación de la tarjeta. So if your green card is about to expire, that's the form you would use. Yes, you can electronically file. And what happens while you're waiting? First and foremost, you shouldn't wait until the last minute to renew your green card. If you lose it, the main advice I have for you, and I think Robert will agree with me, is you have to file a police report. You must file a police report. We've been witnesses of cases where someone's identity was stolen just because they lost the green card. And when we go and defend your case and there's no police report, how do we tell them that you had nothing to do with that? How do we prove that? So a police report is always helpful. But if that happens to you, you apply for the I-90 as soon as possible. For the green card as soon as possible. And good news is that you get a receipt that will give you an extension of your green card. So that's good news. If you have to travel outside of the country, you call the 800 number with your receipt number, and they can possibly, because nowadays everything is just possibly, get an appointment and go in with your passport, and they can stamp the passport if need be to prove that you continue to have status. But if your green card is about to expire, don't wait more than 6 months before the expiration date to apply. So apply within 6 months before it expires. Robert, did I cover everything?
Yeah, I was going to mention the 6 months, and I think when you do file to renew your resident card, there is an automatic extension. And I also want to emphasize that some people believe that if their green card expires, that they lose the permanent resident status. But you can't lose your permanent resident status unless you voluntarily give it up or it's taken away from you by an immigration judge. So I don't want people to be too nervous about. I mean, you still want to have that status and file, immediately within 6 months of the expiration, but you also don't want to be terrified that you're going to be deported if it happens to expire or is already expired.
Yes, thank you.
And I think the processing time right now, they say, is about 12 and a half months to actually get the new card.
Mhm. And the fee, if I'm reading correctly, is $415 for online and $465 if you do the paper filing.
Perfect. The next question, are people in process of citizenship protected?
Absolutely. I mean, as long as they have a permanent resident card, they're here lawfully and they're protected from removal. And if they do have either an immigration violation or a crime that makes them deportable, they always would have a right to an immigration judge, an immigration removal defense proceedings. People do have to be careful, though, when applying for naturalization, because if you do have a crime in your past that does make you deportable, or some type of immigration violation, or if you had gotten your resident card through some type of misrepresentation or fraud, the naturalization stage is where immigration is going to take a closer look at your immigration history, because it's the last time that they're going to be reviewing you in your situation. So you do have to be careful if you do have any immigration violations or crimes to make sure that you're not deportable. And then before applying, making sure that you file a motion to vacate if necessary on a conviction, or you might want to get expungements on any other convictions to help with discretion. But make sure you're not deportable before you try to naturalize, or you could end up being denied and put into removal proceedings.
Thank you. Next question. We have, if a person is in the US for 2 years or less, can they be denied due process?
This
Well-
is, go ahead, Robert.
Oh, no. Well, there's something called expedited removal, and to me, it sounds like it's denying due process, but that actually happens to be the law. If someone's detained within a certain distance from the border, I think I'm not sure what it is, 90 miles or something, or if they're in the country less than 2 years, technically, immigration can put that person into expedited removal proceedings, and that can take away a right to defense in immigration court. And I don't know if Jessica has anything to add, or.
No, I completely agree with that information. Thank you.
And so that's actually what we were seeing in some circumstances recently, where the immigration government attorneys were moving to terminate cases on immigrants who were here less than 2 years. So they had turned themselves in to apply for political asylum, and then they went to their first court within 2 years of entering the country. And instead of letting them process their political asylum applications, they were terminating proceedings and detaining them and putting them in expedited removal proceedings instead. I don't know how widespread that's been. I think that was partially a scare tactic to immigrants. So I don't think it's happening nearly as much as they're trying to make it seem. But there is a possibility of that happening if you're here less than 2 years.
Okay. Next question I have here is, how can I switch my in-person immigration appointment to an online appointment? Is that possible?
It's not automatic. That's something that attorney can definitely ask. And the reason why people are asking this is because, as Robert mentioned, unfortunately, many respondents, many families are showing up to immigration court and they're being detained specifically because of that, because they've been here for less than 2 years. I believe that they should be in mandatory detention, and that's why they're getting detained. one of the strategies that attorneys have is to request the court to allow both attorneys and their client to appear via web, but there's no guarantee. And as I read all the comments by my colleagues, not every judge agrees, right, Robert? It depends on the judge.
Yeah, it would depend on the courts, and some courts like WebEx hearings anyways. So it's you might be lucky and have that kind of a judge, but yeah, it depends.
So every courtroom is different on this one.
Yes,
definitely.
Okay, another question we have here. Are people in the process of getting their green card by their spouse protected if their waiver was approved?
Okay, so what that means, and there's so many type of waivers, but what I'm thinking is there are hundreds of thousands of people right now waiting for what's called consular processing interviews. Remember how I mentioned earlier that many parents are here, and even though they have children who are over 21 and they're US citizens, they cannot get status in the country? Well, that is because of the 10-year bar. If the son or daughter files a petition for their parents, they're going to get an interview. They will get an interview, but the interview is going to be outside of the US. Once they attend the interview, they get a 10-year bar. 10 años de castigo fuera del país. That's what the law says, if they resided in the country for over a year without status. However, if you're married to a US citizen, or even to a legal permanent resident, or if you have a mom or a dad who's a legal permanent resident or a US citizen, you qualify for this waiver. It's called the I-601A waiver because it allows you to stay in the country while the I-601A waiver gets approved, and it gets provisionally approved. Why? Because when you finally get your interview to go out of the country, the consular officer is going to ask you a lot of questions. And if somehow you are inadmissible and under another ground, even if you have your I-601A approved, they will ask you for another waiver. But for that one, you will have to wait for it outside of the country. Now, what if you're in that situation here? Your waiver has been approved, or many of you have the waiver pending, and you get detained by ICE. Are you protected? I'm going to tell you this. The best protection you have is your silence. Your silence. Because the moment you start giving information to the ICE officers, like Robert said, all that information is going to be placed in your file and it's going to be used against you. So I wouldn't say that you're protected per se, but you do have this. You have something on your side that your attorney is going to use to tell the judge, Your Honor, what a waste of judicial economy. We're here wasting your time when my client's already on his way out. The waiver has been approved. We're just waiting consular process and interview, which is taking over a year, sometimes almost 2 years, depending on the country. So, Your Honor, how about you close this case so we're not on your docket, or give me a date to come back, but my client is already on his way to getting status. So I would say your best protection is keeping yourself informed and having a plan, right? Speak to your lawyer. What do you counsel? What do I do if I get detained? And the first thing we're going to tell you is remain silent and call your lawyer. Right, Robert? What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. People think that they don't realize that the removal defense process is in their favor, and we can keep people in court long enough for these waivers to get approved, and then we can get these cases closed so you can go out and go to the interview and get the resident card and come back.
Thank you. And thank you both for such important information that our community needs at these difficult times. Quiero otra vez decirles que estoy muy agradecida por el tiempo que los dieron hoy, porque esta información es muy importante, porque ahorita en estos tiempos nuestra comunidad, ahorita muchos viven en miedo. Así es que esta información es importante para nuestras comunidades. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to both of you. Any final remarks, any final advice that you want to give to the community? Just closing remarks, because it looks like we've already gone through all of our questions, and I just want to make sure we have like any final comments from either of you that you want to share.
Robert, why don't you go first, because your area of law is more complicated.
Thank you. One other, well, again, I want to thank Assemblywoman Pacheco for doing such a wonderful job on this and for representing your community so well. And very humbled by being here today. So thank you. One of the questions that I get is I have clients who have naturalized like years ago, and they have convictions that we were able to overcome, and they're afraid now to travel, or they're afraid that they're going to be denaturalized because of that. And so that there's one thing that I want to emphasize, that the denaturalization process is extremely difficult, and it's not something that immigration is looking to do on a regular basis. So I want to make I want to hopefully, and I know the ICE raids and everything is real, and it's dramatic, and it's hurtful, and it's scary, but I also want to hope people can see that a lot of it is dramatized, and a lot of it is scare tactics, and I hope a lot of people who have naturalized and do have resident cards, that they are at peace, and realize that you are secure.
Yo también quiero empezar agradeciendo a la asambleísta Pacheco, porque me parece que esta información hoy en día es más importante que nunca. Y quería retar a cada uno de ustedes que está viendo este video, que lo compartan. Tal vez no lo pudieron ver mientras estábamos aquí en vivo, pero es importante compartir, porque si usted puede ayudar a una familia, ya ayudamos suficiente, porque todos necesitan escuchar esa clase de información. Y también quería decirles, señores y señores, que si ustedes analizan la historia de este país, es la primera vez que los inmigrantes pasan por situaciones difíciles, y les quiero decir que al leer van a ver que no. Aquí en California les cuento que había hace muchísimos años una ley que iba a hacer mucho daño a los niños de personas inmigrantes que no contaban con un estatus legal migratorio, y se trataba de su educación. Y creo que en ese fue el momento que las familias inmigrantes dijeron: ¿sabes qué? Hasta acá llegamos, no más. Vamos a salir a votar, vamos a hacer que nuestras voces sean escuchadas. Y estoy segura que los padres de la asambleísta Pacheco dijeron: no, tenemos que criar nuestra hija que defienda los derechos de los inmigrantes, y ahora tenemos a una persona que nos representa aquí en el condado que ella representa, con valores que representan a nosotros como familias inmigrantes. Entonces, ¿qué te quiero yo decir a ti? Que en este momento sí, es una tormenta muy difícil, pero después de la tormenta, créanme, que va a salir no solamente el sol, pero va a salir un arco iris hermoso. Y yo quiero que uses esto para compartir con tus hijos, para que les enseñes la importancia de que si ya tienen más de 18 años, que se registren, que voten, porque es la única manera que nuestras voces como inmigrantes van a llegar a ser contadas. Así que si vives en miedo, sabes que no te puedo decir que no sientas esa emoción, porque no sería justo. Tú eres el que sale a trabajar, tú eres el que estás encerrado en tu casa, que tal vez no sales, pero créeme que hay muchos abogados de organizaciones comunitarias luchando por ti, llevando estos casos al noveno circuito, llevando estos casos a la Corte Suprema de los Estados Unidos. Así que tus derechos van a seguir siendo luchados, así que comparte este video, por favor. I just want to say thank you again to Assemblywoman Pacheco for allowing us to be here with you, for sharing this information with your community. And I want to ask you, viewer, that if you didn't get a chance to watch it while we were live, we understand you're probably working, but please share this video, share this information, because if it's only one family that we can help, that's good enough for us. That makes our day, because that means that it's one more family that gets to stay together. Now, as we review the history of people like all of us are immigrants. Somehow we have someone back in our history that's an immigrant. And it's not the first time that I can tell you that we go through difficult times. But one thing we can learn from history, that these are the times that we get up stronger than ever. We get up because we have the DNA of immigrants in us that says, you're a warrior, you have to continue to go. And I would venture to say that the parents of our Assemblywoman present here today someday said something like that: I'm going to raise my kids to be the voice for the voiceless. So use this time to raise your kids with the knowledge of the importance of going out to vote, registering, voting. If they're born here and they're over 18, they should be doing that. They need to be the voice for the voiceless. They need to go out there and be the voice that some people can't have because they don't have a status in this country yet. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Thank you. And that was well said. I think it's important to have our communities engaged and involved, and also to have our youth also be engaged and involved, and to make sure we all vote. So I couldn't have said it any better. And you are so correct about my parents. They instilled in me to work hard for others. That's why I became an attorney like both of you. I may not do immigration law, but I became an attorney to help the voices and help those in need. And that's why I'm here as the assembly member. So I want to thank both of you. You provided so much information. And nomás quiero decir también que esta información es importante que la comparten. Avísenle a sus familias qué son sus derechos, porque es importante saber los derechos que tienen. So for everybody watching, make sure you share these videos, this information, because it's important to keep our community informed. It's important for our community to know what our rights are, what your rights are. And so I want to thank all of you for participating, for being here today. We will have all this information, all these resources available on my website. You can find my website at a64.asmdc.org. There's a lot of information. We will go ahead and probably list it at the very end. Así es que en español vamos a tener toda esta información en mi website. Vamos a dar esta información al final, pero nomás quiero que sepan todos en mi comunidad que no están solos, que aquí estamos para ayudar. En mi oficina siempre tienen una oficina donde pueden venir, pueden preguntar qué asistencia podemos darles, porque siempre estamos aquí para ayudar. So for everyone listening, please know that in my office, we're always willing to help. Please stop by. My office is located in the city of Downey, next to Portos. We are here. We are available. And you are not alone. We are here. So I want to thank all of you again. Thank you to our two amazing and fabulous attorneys. You both did a great job, a lot of information. And I know people will probably have to listen to this video over and over again, but as long as they have the information, that is important. So thank you both very much.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, my pleasure.